Joining us now from Washington, D.C., Congressman from the 9th Congressional District in Virginia, Republican Morgan Griffith. Congressman, welcome. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Glad to be with you, and I hope you have a great Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas.
Well, have one also. I'm sure we'll be talking before Christmas, but you also have great Turkey Day. Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday. By the way, I will not be on the air for 2 days, tomorrow and Friday. Courtney will be here sitting in for me tomorrow. Scott Taylor, former Navy SEAL, and Republican delegate in Virginia Beach. She's a returning guest host. And then on Friday, another returning guest host, former radio talk show icon Pat Murphy. But Courtney will be here, so everything will be fine. Tune us, and we understand both of them have great shows lined up. Congressman, I'm going to start, if I can, today with a clip that I'm going to play. This Virginia woman recruiting for ISIS. I want to get your thoughts on that. Let's roll the tape.
This is a woman who allegedly talked her sister into jihad and following ISIS. She's 29-year-old Heather Kaufman. She's accused of working as an ISIS recruiter, someone who could help others get to Syria and join the bloodthirsty terror group. Well, according to an FBI criminal complaint, she tried to recruit 2 people, including an undercover FBI agent. In the first case, a man she claimed to be her husband, but whom she had never met, well, she allegedly set him up with brothers who could get him contacts and get him into Turkey. The man ultimately changed his mind. He stayed in Macedonia instead, and that really seemed to annoy her. But in all of this, the initial red flags were that Kaufman was very active on Facebook. She created about a half dozen accounts. In each, it appears that she was becoming more and more radicalized. FBI agents were able to get a search warrant for the Facebook accounts and found a history of ISIS writings listing her work as jihad for Allah's sake, posting images of the black ISIS flags, as well as promoting Allah and the fight. Now, an undercover agent met with Kaufman several times expressing his interest in jihad, and she said that she could find somebody who was a legitimate facilitator to get him to Syria. At least one of the meetings was recorded with Kaufman creating a code and language allegedly in order to avoid detection. When confronted at her office by FBI agents, she denied the activities. She was charged with lying and also providing material support to terrorists.
So they actually have a link between this woman and ISIS. She was actually communicating with them?
She was communicating about them. She was communicating about them. But what really concerned them is they went into the Facebook account, they began to look at the things she was saying, and also she began to fancy herself a recruiter.
What do you make of this whole thing, Congressman Griffith?
Well, I will tell you, I think this is one of the reasons why we need an actual declaration of war against ISIS. I think it's treasonous. But I think a good defense attorney could get her off on the treason charge because you have to draw this very circuitous route from the authorization of military force in 2001 to ISIS, and I think that would fall in a court. Now, that being said, I'm glad the FBI has her on lying because they can at least get her on obstruction of justice charges and do something with her. But it would be nice to be able to charge her with treason, which is what I believe it is. But unfortunately, the president thinks he has the power to do everything without Congress, and this is one of the consequences. I don't believe you could make a treason charge stick.
Right now, we have an illegal war. We're dropping bombs. The president deployed another 1,500 troops. I don't care what you call them, advisors or not. We've had enough people on our show that said that they go over there, they're armed, they're in harm's way, they're part of the effort, that we're at war. Why doesn't this president just go to Congress, lay out his agenda for over there, and ask for a formal declaration of war? What's the holdup?
Well, if I could explain all of the different actions of Barack Obama, I'd probably be a millionaire. I have no idea why he wouldn't go forward. There are a lot of us. This is not a divide by party. There is a divide in the Congress, but it's not a divide by party. I would support many of the things the president wants. I think that the resolution that Senator Tim Kaine put forward is the right first step.
Right.
I want to see some of the Arab nations put troops on the ground. I know that you and others think that's a pipe dream, but I think if it gets bad enough over there, they're going to realize they have to be putting some troops on the ground. And so I don't understand why the president doesn't come. Now, I will say this. The president probably doesn't pay any attention to what various members of Congress are saying because he has a history of doing that. As you and I have talked before, I don't expect the president to call me on the phone, but I would think at least the assistant janitor at the White House might give my office a call every now and then and find out where I stand on an issue. That has not happened since I've been here. We're just about finishing up our 4th year, and it's unbelievable that an executive wouldn't at least find out where the members of Congress stand on these issues and have some, like I said, it could be the junior assistant janitor for all I care, but It would be nice if somebody would try to find out, because I think he has the votes to pass such a resolution, and why not?
Well, that's the same thing that Mark Warner said 24 hours ago. He said if he would just come to Congress, and he said the same thing. He said it's not Democrats or Republicans. There's people on two sides of the aisle that have different feelings, but he said that he would get a majority in the two houses. So nobody can figure out the holdup.
Only thing I can figure is that he thinks he'd just rather not have to deal with Congress at all, and he's got a pen and a phone. But that's not the way to run the government, and he's going to find himself in big trouble eventually over that.
Congressman, very disappointing last night. The Keystone pipeline failed in the Senate. The Democrats couldn't come up with the 60th vote they needed. And for many of us that believe that the Keystone pipeline is going to create jobs, lower the cost of energy, it's just the right thing to do. It was disheartening, I thought, last night. What happens now? Is it dead?
Well, the easy answer is we'll take care of it when we get a new Senate. Now, let me take a step back. If you went to any child that was studying the laws of the United States and the formation of the United States and the creation of this great republic, and you said to them, do you think the Founding Fathers intended for there to have to be 60 votes to pass the bill? We had 2 yesterday that had more than 50 votes that didn't pass the Senate because of their modification of the rules in the 1970s and the creation of the modern filibuster rule. You go back to the old filibuster rule where you actually have to stand in the well of the Senate, and both of those bills pass. And there would be bills that the Senate would pass that I wouldn't like, particularly when it was in Democrat control. But you know what? It's not about what Morgan Griffith likes or somebody else likes. It's about running the country as a republic on Democrat principles. And that means 51 votes. Maybe the minority can slow it down, but 51 votes ought to ultimately be able to pass a bill. That's not true right now in the United States Senate. And I call on my friends and colleagues over there to change that rule. And this is not something new. When I put out my newsletter and an op-ed piece a couple of weeks ago, somebody said, well, Morgan's coming up with this now because the Republicans took control. No, we went back and checked, and my first newsletter that talked about this was November 16, 2012, after the Republicans had taken a beating by the president and the Senate was still controlled by Democrats. This is something that I think is damaging our republic and needs to be changed, and both of yesterday's bills should have passed in a true representative government.
Well, and then if they did, they would have gone to President Obama, and he had the right to veto them, and then you need 2/3 to override the veto, which is what the Constitution lays out. That makes sense. So why don't we go to the next step? What I found, I don't know what the word is, stupid, is that Republicans last night saying, well, that's no problem because when we take all these new Republicans come in January, when we take our seats, then it will pass easily. Well, they'll get over 60, but they can't get to 67. So if Obama vetoes it, there's no math to get 296 members of the House or 67 members of the Senate to vote for the pipeline. So the question then I have to ask is it dead? If Obama vetoes it.
And I would say I don't think so. I think it will continue to move forward. The public pressure will be out there. I know that the president is lame duck, but I still don't think he wants to be known as the president who had the most vetoes. He has to take that title away from Grover Cleveland. Mm-hmm. He might do it. He may be stubborn enough to do it. But I think whether it's Keystone or something else, it's our obligation not to worry about what the president's going to do, but to do what we think is right and put those bills on the president's desk and make him use his pen the way the Constitution said he should use his pen if he wants to, and veto bills. And while, Keystone may be high profile enough that maybe he just digs in his heels, there will be lots of other pro-energy bills that we will put on his desk. And I don't think he can look into the cameras, watch his poll numbers go down even further, and veto all of them.
Congressman, President Obama again threatening to exercise his phone and his pen, apparently tone deaf to what happened a week ago on Tuesday. 56% of voters say they oppose amnesty, but the president about to make up to 7 million illegals legal with his fiat that's coming down the pike. What, if anything, can Republicans do in order to stop this?
Well, we have lots of different tools. We'll have to figure out which ones we want to use. We may have to use them all. We have, of course, the budget, and we can do things with the budget language. The Senate can refuse after the first of the year to approve any of his appointees. There are a lot of tools. As you know, we finally found an attorney who didn't have clients that would pressure him to drop the case, and our lawsuit against the president for his improper actions is now going to move forward. So there are a lot of different tools that we have available to us, and you know it's unfortunate that the president will go here. And of course, we have to see what he actually does to see whether or not he has legal authority to do it. But you know, we'll have to take this one step at a time and make sure that we do it right.
Okay, but it sounds like there's enough conservatives within the House that are going to attempt to do something to stop him, right?
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that. We're going to do everything in our power to stop him. But, you know, it's unbelievable that we would have a president who is so unrealistic and uncaring in his approach. And there's so many things he could be doing. And what's really interesting is we had a hearing yesterday on Ebola. Right. And the president, of course, has asked for $6 billion.
Right.
Well, $750 million of that money is supposed to go to HHS, but then they can give it to, guess what, border control. And why would they want to give it to border control? To control people coming in illegally who might have Ebola. Well, why aren't we spending that money? Why isn't the president asking us for $750 million to control the border? I think he'd get that passed. But he doesn't want to control the border except in the case of Ebola. And it's just unbelievable how bad his policies are, and frankly how incompetent, even if you agree with some of his policies, how incompetent his administration is.
What did you think of the MIT professor Gruber saying that the Obamacare bill was written specifically to deceive the American public and that they would be too stupid to ever figure it out?
Well, I think he was telling the truth. I think that's what the administration thought. And, you know, they've told lie after lie after lie from the administration in regard to you can keep your doctor, you can keep your hospital, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to save $2,500 per average family. So, you know, they took a shellacking this year, but I don't think it was severe enough based on all the different things that they have done. And I think that those that stood with the president on Obamacare ought to be paying that price. And, you know, Senator Warner, a very nice man, but he almost paid the price. And if we could have gotten the attention of the national folks, we could have gotten another Senate seat. And I will say, you know, that you might not have seen it down there in your area, but in our area, you could see it. We just needed, as Chris Lasavita said earlier on your show, there was voter suppression. Our people were discouraged. And so even though we were winning about 58% of the vote, we only had about a 34% turnout in the 9th District. And, you know, if that turnout had been bigger, you'd have Senator-elect Gillespie waiting to take office today, and there wouldn't be any real question about what was going to happen in the future. And it's unfortunate that the Democrats play these games of deception over and over again, and the American people are like Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. They just keep falling for it.
Well, there's no question. I mean, if you look at the map and you look at what went down, you look at your district, the 9th District, and the percentages that Gillespie rolled up there, had you gotten 45, I don't mean you, but I mean if 45% of the voters, I think we were figuring in the 9th District turned out and the percentages held, Gillespie was handily. It wouldn't have even been close. You know, all that was there certainly, and I think what Lasavita said is a wake-up call for a lot of us, that you look at a lot of these public surveys, you know, even me, we tend to see them, report them on the air. I think you really have to look into these, because especially you look at the one that came out from Roanoke College 2 weeks out, or 3 weeks out, I believe, that showed a 17-point margin for Warner, which we talked about. I had asked whoever that professor is to come on. They didn't return my call at the time. But that thing was ridiculous. I mean, that wasn't even close, right?
Well, and what about I think it was the CNU poll that did the folks who were in the younger age bracket and had Gillespie coming in third?
Yes.
That one was ridiculous, too.
That was absolutely ridiculous. That had Warner up by 7, I believe, a week out. Was also inaccurate. But at some of these, and I think going forward, we need to take a much sturdier look at those, no doubt. Thank Congressman Morgan Griffith for being with us. If you want more information or you want to sign up for his newsletter like I have, which I encourage everybody to do, it comes out every 2 weeks. It's a great read. Go to morgangriffith.house.gov, morgangriffith.house.gov. Congressman, it's always great to have you with us, sir, and happy Thanksgiving.
Great to be with you.